Okay, it appears as though we are recording. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, June 15th, and this is a meeting between JCEA. JESPA was invited, unfortunately was unable to attend, which is one of the reasons we are recording, but also so that either association can share this with their membership and we can use it as our historical documentation as well. We do have two board members with us, President Michelle Applegate and Vice President Erin Kenworthy, as well as three folks from JCEA. Looks like Anna Bryant, Nate Golick, and Ange Anderson, as well as Jen Christensen, our Director of Labor Relations, Kristen Harper, the Board Administrative Assistant, and Matt Polero, our Chief of Staff. I am Amanda Perazio, Chief Human Resources Officer, and thank you for allowing me to introduce all of you instead of you introducing yourselves. I'm sorry, I just kind of went with it. And we are prepared to share a Foxtrot version of the MLO MOU that we have been passing back and forth between JCEA and JESPA and the district for the last several months. And so I am going to attempt to share the correct screen because I also have notes. I have this prepared to send to you as soon as we conclude our conversation. Let's see if I can figure this out. I think it is this one. Okay, can everyone see my screen? It's moving? Yes. Okay, perfect. So again, this is the district Foxtrot version. And I have attempted to switch back to all language is in red if the district is proposing it or has proposed it. All language is in blue if the associations have proposed it in any of the past versions. So we can certainly refer to past versions just to double check anything that might be missing from anyone's recollection. However, I believe I have captured everything without any highlights because as we know, when we highlight things, oftentimes that means we have come to agreement, and I certainly don't want to get confused. We had green highlights, associations had yellow highlights, and so I've reverted everything back to red if the district proposed it, green, blue if the associations proposed it. So should there be any confusion, please don't hesitate to reach out or stop me. The first red line that we made was right here at the beginning. We realized that this was entitled Mill Levy Override Oversight Committee, and that was only one component of the entire MOU. And so we have just removed the words Oversight Committee so that it just reads Mill Levy Override 2025 through 2028. We actually could probably change this to 2026. I'm going to go ahead and propose that we do that so that we're in a current year. This was drafted initially back in July of 2025, which is why it said that. And so that is what I would propose. So as we start down the language here, do want to just start with this first paragraph. Most everything that was in here is something that is language that we have previously agreed to. There was one change that JCA and JESPA made in the last version. In the ECHO version, the word clear was placed in here. We are proposing that instead of saying clear, because that's kind of a subjective term, you might think it's clear, but we don't think it's clear, or vice versa. We'd like to propose the language to establish a shared vision for the use of all new revenue generated by a voter-approved mill levy override during the term of the 2025. Again, we may want to change this to 2026 to 2028 collective bargaining agreements. However, this section we might not want to change because this did begin with the established 2025 bargaining agreement. So I'm open for conversation on whether or not we say 25 or 26. So that was the only proposed change there was these words, shared vision for the use. Under the use of MLO revenue section, again, all language in red is from the Foxtrot version. that we are proposing today. Some of this language was proposed in previous iterations, and it was placed down below. The associations moved it up in this section, excuse me, and we've just modified some of this language in here. So it now reads the following. Consistent with the Board of Education resolution authorizing the use of fund balance. Here comes Sarah, so I'll just pause for a second. Sarah, welcome. Hopefully you can hear us. We are on the first section of the Foxtrot version of the MOU. And just for reference, we have recorded this so that you and or Xander or others can review it at a later time as well, with regard to just the title portion in the first paragraph. So on this section, you go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I have been in ICU with my husband for the past 12 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's been a, I'm just checking. You said you're recording, like you're giving us back what we gave you.
That is correct. This is the Foxtrot version. And so this has counter proposed language from your Echo version that you shared with us last week.
Copy. I just wanted to, I just have not been at work and checked in at all. So I just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
No worries at all. And yes, we'll send you the recording right afterwards.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this particular section, again, it starts with consistent with the Board of Education resolution authorizing the use of fund balance for 2026-27, MLO funds shall first support existing general fund expenditures that are not currently supported by existing revenue, and subsequently shall be additive funding for salaries, benefits, student safety, mental health supports, and or career training. So the Board of Education adopted the 2026-2027 budget last Thursday evening. And we do have this resolution. As you know from the negotiations table this year, the salary increases that we agreed to did require us to have a use of fund balance of approximately $13 million. We had gone back and forth on whether or not we were going to make that immediate or we were going to make it retroactive once the MLO passed. Hearing the voices of the members, we did go ahead and make it an immediate increase of steps, lanes, and then the 1.25% on the top of the scale for those on step 22, an increase in lane 6, but also JESPA's agreement, everyone received steps on their salary schedule as well. So again, that was approximately a $13 million fund balance use. And I'm more than happy to share that Board of Education resolution with you that indicates that as well. The second paragraph says, after applying funds towards existing expenditures that have no recurring funding source, the district will expend no less than the same percentage of the district's newly generated MLO revenues to compensation, in parentheses, wages, salaries, and employer paid benefits, as it expends annually on salaries and benefits as a percentage of total expenditures in its most recent audited financial year from the general fund. So essentially what that is saying is that the new money will be added to the general fund and we will continue to spend the same percentage that we have spent in the previous year on salaries, benefits, and wages. Again, that will be an increase because the general fund would increase. Let's see. I will tell you that we have struck the language on restrictions for administrator salaries, and I want to be really clear about the why of this. So there are a couple of reasons. Now, first of all, we feel as though this language intentionally, maybe not our intention or your intention, but it will be seen as an intentional devaluation of one group of employees who are also working in service of student outcomes. We recognize and acknowledge that educators and ESPs are doing this, but so are central administrators. Secondly, similar to what you had crossed out below around only focusing on educators and ESPs, technically, this language is not really within the negotiating rights of the associations because the Administrators Association does not negotiate. And so really this language, while you may feel very strongly about it doesn't really belong in negotiations with JCA and JESPA between the district. The third reason is this really isolates one group of employees whose salary ranges may also be below market value. We've talked about how there are educators' salaries that are certainly below market value when compared to the front range. And there may be a handful of ESP job codes that are also below market value. And so, as we've discussed in the Partnership for Fiscal Sustainability, we really want to ensure that we are focusing on doing our best to bring people closer to that average market value rather than leave one group of employees consistently below market value. And believe it or not, there are still administrators who are below market value as well. The next reason is for many of the central services administrators, we're talking everyone from managers to assistant directors. It's not all chiefs and executive directors working at the Ed Center, and we interpret this to mean all central office administrators. Many of those folks are actually working more days per year and making less per day than some of our ESPs and educators. And so, again, in connection to the fact that this feels very devaluing, that is one of the additional reasons as to why. And finally, I just want to share with you, and Erin and Michelle are here to share more about this. Should you have questions, this is not currently supported by our Board of Education. Neither President Applegate nor Vice President Kenworthy nor the other three directors who serve on the board. So this is just not in support of what they believe either. So I'm going to keep going, but certainly if anybody wants to cut me off to ask questions or share more, don't hesitate to do so. The next section is collaboration in the planning and development of MLO priorities. Much of this work has already been underway. However, I will tell you that we have made a modification in this based on the work of the Partnership for Fiscal Sustainability. First of all, in the last version, you added the term or successor committees right here. We have accepted that. We're fine with or successor committees being included in there. And then we have, let's see, I believe we've left everything else struck. This was all previously struck. We left this support efforts struck. I will tell you that we had a really hard time leaving this struck. We felt like we were asking for support, asking for you to seek support, not commit to supporting. And so we acknowledge that that is not something you are interested in putting in the language. And I fully believe that that does not mean you won't support it. It just means that you have potentially a different approach to gathering that support from your membership. And I am just essentially trusting that because I know it to be true from past experience. Down below in the general purpose mill levy override priority version, first of all, we removed the words use of. We felt like those two words weren't necessary because it sounded funny when we said that. And so we just put general purpose mill levy override revenue priority areas. Otherwise, it would have said use of and then priority areas. If you read the whole thing, it sounds funny. Anyway, we made that modification. In the number 1, we made just a couple of language changes. So here's what it reads now. The parties agree that the ongoing financial priorities for the new, we changed the word and recurring. We said new general purpose mill levy revenue shall. One of the reasons we put new is because we believe that this language speaks to anything that we acquire this year or in future years, as outlined in the 2025 or 2026 through 2028 title. We already had the 2018 revenue earmarked for the things that were in the language back then. And so we do not intend to change the priorities for those. Additionally, as you know, all of the mill levy override revenue becomes part of the general fund. So we are not separately reporting out on its use, but as previously stated, we have committed to the conversations that we've been having around this MOU, that it will be invested in wages, salaries, benefits, and of course, the other priorities that were determined by the Partnership for Fiscal Sustainability and presented to the Board of Education in May. The other word that we changed, we put in the word shall. So it says general purpose mill levy override revenue shall include, but are not limited to. And then this section, you might be a little bit taken off guard. And so I just want to explain here. We have crossed out these four categories: increased staffing levels, safe and reliable transportation, healthy and accessible school meals, and student safety and mental health and wellness supports. The reason that we have struck those is because they do not align with the language that has been proposed and shared with the Board of Education by the Partnership for Fiscal Sustainability Executive Committee. And we cannot expand this current MLO without going back to the partnership and asking them to expand their priorities. Right now, the major priorities were career and technical education, which we have left in that bullet there that says career pathways and job training. And we combined it with the next section that said, or the next bullet that said, with equity focused staffing and school supports. And then the other priority was really identified competitive wages and benefits for teachers and ESPs. And we're completely fine with that language change from school-based staff. And I do want you to know that we've added something in so that should this current MLO not pass, we have a mechanism to reopen this MOU and discuss what other priorities might need to be adjusted with the Partnership for Fiscal Sustainability. And I will get to that language in just a moment. Oops. Here it is right here. So it says now, should voters not approve the intended priority areas outlined above in November 2026, parties mutually commit to updating and refining the priority areas with staff and community input. And then this language was already here. I think we did modify it slightly. So here's what it says. Upon passage of a general purpose mill levy override, the district agrees to engage in negotiations as outlined in the collective bargaining agreements with each respective association related to. There it is, related to. So this last part is a change. Future year increases that make wages, salaries, and benefits more competitive. And again, that's very much in alignment with the interests of the Partnership for Fiscal Sustainability as presented. We talked about the word competitive being in there. And so we just struck this last part because we feel as though when we talk about wages, salaries, wage and salary schedule restructuring and employer paid benefits, we feel as though those specifics within how wages are increased, how employer paid benefits are increased, really is left to the negotiations table. And we didn't think that we needed to be super specific here because essentially everything is open for conversation at that point, whether it's restructuring of the wage schedule or changing the employer paid benefits, the tiers, et cetera. Okay, the next section for transparency and accountability, because this is also going to seem like we crossed out the whole thing. So this committee has already been established. So it previously talked about within 30 calendar days, but we don't intend to create a new committee. This committee's already been established to do a look back of 2018, but also is intending to look forward to any future mill levy oversight work that needs to be done. And so what we've changed this language to is the district has committed to, created and convened a mill levy override committee, MLOC, in April 2026. The purpose of the committee, as well as its minutes and materials from its initial meeting, can be found here, and it lists the website. JCA and JESPA have the opportunity to identify 3 to 5 representatives each to participate in the committee. The district has committed to convening this committee once per semester annually. So again, that has already been established, and whether or not it makes sense to reference a website or if you want it to talk about certain things that are listed on the website, we certainly can, but we just felt like it would be inaccurate to say we will form a committee when we already have formed a committee. Okay, and then finally, this last sentence was previously struck by the associations in the ECHO version. And although we do recognize and appreciate that you have indicated that stating this piece in an MOU does not make it so, or does not make it not true, we feel like the absence of it feels just a little disrespectful to the board's authority. And that's totally me saying that. The board didn't say that. I actually changed this language. And so we put this back in that says, likewise, this MOU does not waive the Board of Education's authority to make final decisions on ballot language and year-to-year spending priorities in the best interest and needs of the district. So those are the changes. If you would like me to indicate these changes in a specific way, I'm more than happy to do so, to like highlight them in a different color, or even put notes in here if that would be helpful. But I wanted to try to get us back to red is district language, blue is association language, so that we can actually read the language, because it was real messy, as you know. So I will stop talking, and if there are questions, I'm happy to attempt to address them, or allow President Applegate and Vice President Kenworthy to speak up as well.
We also want to just recognize that this might require y'all to go back, kind of, Ange, to your point. And so, we certainly understand that. It's kind of like negotiating in real time is not always the best tactic. So that's obviously also an option. And then Amanda would be your point of contact. And we're happy to answer questions, support. However, we thought it was important that we join Amanda for this call. So we could all be kind of on at least the same page with the delivery.
Amanda, could you scroll down toward the end? There was something with just the wording, and I can't remember where it was, of course. I almost stopped you, and then I was like, no, I'm not going to. Okay,
was it
not
the
very end. So go up a little bit.
Was this about the MLOC, this part?
Maybe. Nope, go up a little more. Sorry.
That's okay. This is about the should voters not approve the intended priority areas?
Yeah. So by that, do you mean they don't vote for it?
Essentially, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And since the language that has been drafted and shared with the partnership specifically identified those two priority areas, instead of saying should voters not approve the ballot initiative, we put the intended priority areas that are specific to this November, because as you can imagine, if they don't approve those, we might have to come back together and say, okay, what can we put in here that they will approve or that they might approve?
Okay. Gotcha. And then in the next paragraph, related to future year increases. So upon passage, the district agrees to engage in negotiations as outlined in the collective bargaining agreements with each respective association related to future year increases. So future year increases in revenue, or future year increases in spending on wages, salaries, and benefits.
My understanding is that that would be future year increases specific on wages, salaries, and benefits.
Okay.
Because this is making an assumption that we have generated the revenue and will therefore negotiate. And as you know, when we pass a mill levy override, we don't actually start getting any funding until the spring. And so that's why we wrote that in there. But that's what the negotiation would be about, is salaries, benefits, and wages, aligned to that amount that we previously put in the top language around the percentage.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions that we can help for clarity?
Anna, do you have anything?
No, I'm good for now.
Okay.
And would it help for me to put in notes on where our changes were, or do you think that you guys would be able to look at the two versions side by side and figure it out.
I think we can look at it side by
Okay.
side, but Anna, if you have a preference, speak up.
No, this is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
And do we
All
have a
right.
copy of the Foxtrot? Okay.
I have it ready to hit send on. I just wanted to make
Gotcha.
sure that I didn't actually, you know what? I probably need to go in there and fix that 2026, or, you know, you'll know that we actually proposed switching this to 2026, but because I
We're
had
gonna
already saved
agree
it.
to that, I think. So
Perfect.
that one is not going to be a point of contention.
I didn't figure so. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing and I will send this language over it's in a Word document because I know that is how it was shared with us in Echo. And then we will, I guess we'll just wait to hear from you if you'd like to schedule another meeting. If you reach out to us and make sure that Kristen's on that, we can make sure we get that scheduled. I will be back in town middle of next week. And so I'm more than happy to meet in person or again virtually. And should any questions come up in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out.
Nate's said
Oh, go
Just
ahead.
one
Got
really
something.
quick logistical one. Is there, assuming that there will be a desire for an additional meeting and that the calendar game is hard, one thing that's been difficult so far is just like, here's the time we are meeting without any like, right? Like we see in this particular case, Jespo was very hard to, and like I get we can record, et cetera, but like can we maybe just not answer it today, but think through some ways we might be able to try a shortened version of the calendar game. I hate to say doodle out loud, but like whatever, right? It's just like some process to try and make sure there's more opportunities to find an available time, recognizing everyone's calendars are insane.
Yeah, I think so. I think Kristen can help us with that. I apologize. We were trying to get this one back to you quickly. And so that's the why for here's the date and time. So thank you, Nate. That's really good feedback. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns before we end and I hit send?
Nope.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Summer on, and we will hear from you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.